Yo, what's up guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. The Journey of the Katana Hero by TheTrinity9 Chapter 12. The Dragon Prince in Operation. Hell's Kitchen. My teammates sat around the table, joyously eating a meal prepared by me and Naofumi. We decided to stop at a small village for the night before continuing our journey in the morning. It had only a few days since we had returned to Melromark and we already targeted by the church. What an amazing way to greet us. Anyway, the food Naofumi and I prepared was nothing too special in my opinion, but Raphtalia, Ake, Philo and Ranga voiced their approval repeatedly. Naofumi only used few spices and simple seasoning while I smoked the meat, so it relatively a low-effort meal. The end result was an array of skewers made from various different monster meats. Philo and Ranga happily hummed as they devoured skewer after skewer of assorted meats. I would have chastised them for being a glutton under normal circumstances, but after recent events, I decided to cut them some slack. The night after the battle, or more like, massacre at the border, we saw a massive flock of Philaleals blocking our path. One in particular revealed herself to be a Philaleal queen by the name of Fitoria that transformed to look like Philo. She threatened us, saying that she would murder all of the heroes if they didn't reconcile because their cooperation was necessary to protect the world. As a test to see whether the heroes deserved to live, Fitoria challenged Philo to a one-on-one duel. It was one-sided battle, with Philo getting knocked around and her attacks barely damaged Fitoria. After some time, Fitoria started showing off flashier, more powerful moves that wreaked havoc on Philo's body. But they never broke her spirit. Philo, in a show of incredible adaptability, managed to recreate some of Fitoria's techniques just by seeing them in action. By combining a technique that created glowing claws of magic and her own, high-quick, ability, she became a bullet of swirling power that actually managed to land a cut on Fitoria's cheek and arm. After that, Fitoria officially accepted Philo as the next queen of the Philaleals by giving her some kind of crown. It had vanished, being replaced by a cowlick that stuck straight up. Philo still hated it, continuously ripping it out only for the strand of hair to regrow instantly. Raphtalia and Ake thought it was cute. Naofumi and I thought it looked weird, just like Philo did. Ranga made no comment on that one. Fitoria had also given a strand of her hair to Naofumi and me, allowing it to be absorbed into his shield. It unlocked the entire Philaleal series of shields, but locked the Dragon series of shields. Naofumi had been furious since he was getting closer to the level requirements for them and was excited to see how good they were. But after realizing just how massive the power boosts from the Philaleal series were, and the fact that the entire series was unlocked immediately, he figured it was a worthwhile trade-off. I, however, got attack, magic and agility boost and also a new exclusive skills for my katana. Enchantment upgrade. ATK boost plus 150%, mag boost plus 100%. AGI boost plus 150%, Scorch Katana, LV 62 200s, copied ability, 72. ATK plus 820, mag plus 520, AGI plus 820, equipment bonus. Immune fire elemental, fire slice, dancing flame, scorch blade. Dark flame, scorch blade. Absolute power force, scorch blade. Retribution, supernova burst. Blizzard Katana, LV 62 200s, copied ability, 72, ATK plus 620, mag plus 820, AGI plus 720. Equipment bonus. Immune ice elemental, wind blade. Vacuum, crescent aqua slash, ice spike thrust, ice blade. Fimble winter, ice blade. Absolute zero, ice blade. Endless shards. Tempest Katana, LV 62 200s, copied ability, 72, ATK plus 720, mag plus 720, AGI plus 720. Equipment bonus. Immune wind elemental, wind cutter, tornado blade, thousand blades, atomic slash, tempest blade. Supercell, Tempest Blade. Kamikaze. Absorbing a part of strong creatures is definitely worth it, especially when you're a vassal hero. Unlike Naofumi, I can absorb pretty much anything without any backlash. Taking another bite of the skewer, I thought. It makes sense if Fitoria threatened us since this world's fate is on our hands. Ren and Itsuki, I have no problem with them, but that simp is beyond help. Especially with that bitch hanging around him every day. Shaking away the sour thoughts, I focused on my current situation. I was really thankful that the innkeeper allowed me to use their kitchen. So I decided to make an extra portions for the innkeeper's family as thanks. After that, we retired on our room for the night, and thanks again to the innkeeper to give us a large room with 2 king-sized bed and a couch on it. Now Fumi-sama, Rimuru-sama, should we really be relaxing in the village? Raphtalia asked. We need us all at 100% in case we run into more trouble, so we should take this time to relax. Especially after all we've been through, I said as I stripped off my black coat. Raphtalia stripped off her own armor, leaving her in just her underclothes. Why do you say that, Rimuru-sama? You don't think the king would send people after us again, would you? If he does, I'll beat them up again. Ranga joined in. They are really weak, so it was easy. And Philo will help Mr. Ranga. Because now Philo is go even stronger than before, thanks to Fatoria. Philo chimed in happily as her cowlick glowed and flicked once. You all definitely surprised me. I knew we've all gotten stronger, but I didn't think it was quite this much. Especially you, Philo. Those moves you pulled against Fatoria looked pretty powerful. I'm not sure if even I could defend against something like that last move. Hee, Master praised Philo, she sang, dancing around the room like a child. Raphtalia smiled. I guess I haven't thought about it too much, but we have been growing much stronger than we should be. At least I think so. If Rimuru-sama, Mr. Ake and Mr. Ranga didn't kill them, maybe they'll still chasing us. I waved it off. Not a problem. Even if the church send another zealots again, I'll kill them again. But still, you kill them without even flinch, Lady Rimuru. Ake said thoughtfully. Are you already killed people before? No, I'm not. I just got used of violence and with experience of killing monsters wave and all. I saw no difference of killing humans or killing monsters. Seriously, you need a break, Rimuru. Now Fumi muttered before hummed. Anyway, those people seemed like they were from the church though, not the king's royal guard or anything. Then maybe we should keep an eye out for any 3 heroes church followers rather than royal knights, Raphtalia offered. I couldn't say for sure, but we should be careful regardless. If what I'm seeing is actually correct, we may have less time than I thought. The raccoon unlaced her boots and slipped them off. Didn't you say we had about a month before the next wave hits Siltveld? There should be plenty of time for us to finish our business here in Melromark then go back. Fatoria warned us that the waves all across the world are getting worse, so staying too long in Melromark probably isn't the best plan. That's what we worried about. The timer says we only have a week left until the wave, I said with a frown. A week? Wasn't it supposed to be a month? Ake asked in confusion. It was. The only explanation I can think is that we technically still registered for the wave here in Melromark and we are closer to Melromark than Silvert. I thought for a few moments. It took us about 2 weeks to deal with the dragon and cross the border. A week to deal with everything in Silvert. Then a bit less than a week to get where we are now. That's pretty close to a month after Ryut's wave. So that means we'll get summoned to the next wave that hits Melromark? Raphtalia asked with a frown. That doesn't give us a lot of time to do. It's definitely not. Now Fumi sighed, laying back onto his bed, but it may not be the worst thing ever. What makes you think that? Raphtalia asked. Think about it. If we left Melromark, there's a chance the other heroes did too. And that means there's a chance one or more of them may not even be here for this coming wave. There's a chance, but I'm sure Motoyasu wouldn't leave Melromark. He's too attached to that bitch. I responded. I just hope we didn't accused of something that we didn't do, again. Unfortunately, that may be impossible with the wave coming. Now Fumi sighed. Though if they get summoned as well, we could always break off and assist people elsewhere. We did it once before after all. That's probably our best plan, then. But for now, we need to worry about getting to this Reichnid guy's territory and checking out that devil's mansion. Yes. I just hope that people there are okay. After this we called it a day and go to sleep. 8 hours later, I woke up from my sleep after I heard a cracking sound on the drawer. The others still asleep anyway. I instantly go to the drawer only to see the dragon egg is cracking. After a few struggles, the egg finally full cracked, revealing a black dragon with 2 sets of black wings, a pair of white horns, short tail and a crimson red eyes. WRRRRY. He growled as I hold him with my hands. Seriously, he's so cute. Oh, come here you adorable little cutie, I said as he touched my cheek with his feet and started rubbing it. It felt tickle. Alright, stop that. Now I need to give you a name. You just remind me of a branded archetype. So, from now, your name is Albaz. I declared as the dragon, now named Albaz, roared cutely in response. What was that sound? I turned to the source of the sound, only to find my human-like teammates woken up from their sleeps. Philo and Ranga is still asleep, with Philo in her human form asleep on Ranga's belly. As they stood up and walked up next to me, they saw Albaz, who I carried on. Oh, the egg is hatched already? Naofumi asked. Yep, and it's proved to be a dragon indeed. I responded. His name is Albaz anyway. It's such a cute dragon, Rimuru-sama. Raphtalia said as she watched the dragon on my hands. And looks strong too. I'm sure he'll grow into a big, powerful dragon. Also, another good name, Rimuru. How do you got that name? Naofumi asked. Albaz's name is based on Fallen of Albaz, a monster from Yu-Gi-Oh! Card games. I often play it with Raiden and Hosen during my free time. Both of them is really special for you, huh? Naofumi wondered. I know he's Jalaus and that's kinda funny to me. Yes, they are. But don't worry, you are special like them too, Naofumi. I said with a giggle, make him blush in embarrassment. I'm sorry to interrupt your flirting session, heroes, but we better get our breakfast now. Ake said with a smirk. Geez, Ake, I don't know you're such a party pooper. And with that, we woken up Philo and Ranga before taking a breakfast. I also introduced Albaz to them. While Ranga politely introduced himself to the dragon, Philo has a glint of anger on her eyes as she and Albaz has staring contest for a few minutes. Geez, before Albaz is grow up and manage to speak, I better prepare myself to facing a dragon prince and Philolial princess shenanigans. And as I thought, Albaz has abyssal appetite, just like Philo and Ranga. I can't imagine how much money I've spent on my world if I had pet with appetite like Albaz. Also, I've absorbed Albaz's eggshell, a bit of his blood and scales, and my god. Enchantment upgrade. Fire damage 2. Frost damage 2. Agility enchantment V. Piercing V. ATK plus 200%. AGI plus 200%. Mag plus 200%. Enchantment evolved. Sharpness X plus Dragon Prince's scales equals lethality I. Body enchantment combined. Body shapeshift. Bat wings plus Dragon Prince's blood plus Dragon Prince's skin equals body shapeshift. Dragon wings. AI no dragon is one of the strongest creatures in this world, but bloody hell, this is ridiculous. It upgraded most of my current enchantments and even evolved it into something more powerful. Not that I complain, but still. Anyway, it took several more days for us to reach Reichnacht's territory, even with Philo keeping a faster pace the entire rest of the way there. It's because we spent an hour on each day to leveling up Albaz and Ake, who's under-leveled. Level up. Rimuru Arashi, LV 63. Naofumi Iwatani, LV 61. Ake Rolf, LV 44. Raphtalia, LV 50. Ranga, LV 50. Philo, LV 50. Albaz, LV 15. At this point, Albaz's growth has really surprised me. After I gave him the crystal that Philo got from Galion and, in just 3 days, he already taller than Ranga. His height is 2 meters for God's sake. Also, there's noticeable change, like the horns and wings color changed from white into crimson orange, some crimson orange spikes on his body, his tail grows longer, and the most interesting part, he has a long silver hair with some of his hair has crimson orange color. I never thought a dragon will have a hair, and the beautiful one nonetheless. He also can change into human form, but instead turned to a child like Philo. Albaz turned into a dark-skinned young man with silver and crimson orange hair with crimson red eyes with a scar on his left eye, probably because of the damaged embryo. His height is 170 centimeters, a bit smaller than me. Naofumi quickly give him a clothes he got from Silvert. I still don't understand why that council always give him a ridiculous clothes. But when Albaz wore it, it so suited him. During our way to Reichnacht's territory, we'd encountered a group of bandits who tried to rob us, again. Their fate is same like the other one, unconscious on the side of the street. I still amazed that they didn't even scare when they look at Ronga or Albaz. Is they are so prideful to even feel scared or too desperate? Who knows? Upon arrival, we was quickly ushered to the large mansion. A man with small glasses, indigo-colored hair, and an earnest smile greeted them. Why hello. How may I help you? We have a package for you. They said you'd know what to do when you got it. Naofumi said, handing him the small box they'd received from Werner. Just by looking at the handwriting on the box, the man made a face of recognition. Ah, this is Werner's handwriting. You must be the shield hero and his companions that I've heard so much about lately. My name is Van Reichnot, and I'm the governor of these lands. Please, come in, he offered, holding the door open for them. You've heard right, but what exactly have you heard about us? Naofumi asked, still a bit suspicious. I'm sure you know that we're not well liked here in this country. Van nodded grimly as he led them through the halls. I do, and I also know that you've caused quite a stir with your sudden return to Melromark. My messengers tell me that the capital is a hive of activity right now. Isn't it always? The man shook his head. Much more now than it has been in a long time. I wish I could call it good news, but I'm afraid that isn't the case. Why? Philo and Albaz seems bored, so they are spun around to look at the paintings. Of course, they are debate on anything and everything at the point they made a ruckus on Reichnot's mansion. That's it until Ronga slapped them both on the head and scolded them. Thank God I brought Ronga back then. Van seemed to contemplate his next few words carefully. The king is currently mobilizing the army for war. We all shocked at this revelation. War. Why? Raftalia asked in a panic. Why would he possibly? She stopped as realization hit her. The church. Van nodded with a sad sigh. Yes. The rumor is that Siltvelt, led by the shield hero and katana hero, crossed the border and killed a platoon of Melromarcian soldiers. But that's ridiculous. They attacked us. Naofumi said angrily. I didn't come here to start some religious war. If the king tries to attack, I'll have no choice but to fight back. Siltvelt won't take a threat of war lightly, no matter what I say. And Melromark will not hurt at what we said. Because for them, we are enemies. I added grimly. Naofumi-sama, Rimuru-sama, what should we do? She asked. We only have a few more days until the wave. If we hurry, we might be able to make it back to Siltvelt to prepare. There's no way they'd just let us cross back over the border if they think we're here to start a war, Miss Raftalia. They'll do everything they can to trap us here. Ake told her. I know this isn't good news for you, but I wanted to be honest with you. Van said with a frown. As much as I'd love to defend you here. No, we couldn't ask you for something like that. You'd be putting a huge target on your back for our sake. I said, before stared at him. But if we had a few slaves we needed to hide, would you be able to manage that? Van cocked his head to the side. I suppose I could do that, but why? Open the box. The governor did as he was told, tearing open the box and reading a letter that was inside. After a minute of tense silence, he sighed in relief. Oh, thank goodness. When I'd heard that Lorolona village was destroyed, I sent a group to investigate. What we found there was awful. He let out a sad sigh before continued. What happened there was most definitely not caused by the wave. And when I saw carriages filled with demi-humans heading through my territory and into the Rabier territory, I put two and two together. And I assume you couldn't do anything about it because the other nobles would just outvote you or something, right? I said with a knowing frown. At Van's nod, I groaned and leaned forward onto the table. It's always the same with those damn nobles, I swear. Naofumi rubbed my back with his hand up and down. He sent an appreciative smile, and I returned it. So anyway, is there a chance you could get us in there before the wave? We want to check it out to see if there's anyone Raftalia knows. And if we can, we'll bust anyone else out of there while we're at it. Van hummed in thought. Well, I could submit an official request for an audience with Governor Rabier, but he doesn't trust me much to begin with. There's little doubt in my mind that he would suspect something, especially given the timing of the request. Then, we only have one way. We'll break our way in. Naofumi suggested, prompting Ake, Reichnot and Raftalia to look at him in shock. I was not surprised at all because his option is the logical one. This situation is Double or nothing situation. Now Fumi-sama, we can't do something like that. Do you want to add real crimes onto our list of fake ones? Raftalia exclaimed in shock. Rimuru-sama, please say something. I'm on Naofumi's side. Rimuru-sama, Raftalia exclaimed in shock for the second time. But Lady Rimuru, if we get caught. Ake began to protest, but I cut him off. We won't get caught. With Raftalia's all-first hiding, and Philo's speed, we should be able to go in and out without being noticed. And beside, you, Ranga and Albaz is staying here. I told him. But why? First, it's ineffective. Second and last, we surely will get caught if we bring Philo and Albaz together. Quote. That's makes sense. Van chuckled awkwardly. But, how exactly do you plan on searching the entire mansion undetected? Rabier is a war hawk, so he undoubtedly has a large number of guards patrolling the area. Naofumi smirked as he changed his shield into the Chimera Viper shield. This will work. Anyone without an antidote is going to be at our mercy if they're hit with its poison, so we could use it to get some information. Get the right guard scared enough to piss himself, and voila. We find the slaves, bust him out, and get out of there before the devil knows we were even there. Raftalia's sweat dropped. That plan is so like you, Naofumi-sama. But, aren't you far too confident in such a simple plan? Thinking too hard makes Philo's head hurt. Simple plans are easy to follow, so it's easy to change it if something goes wrong. Philo added. The entire room was silent as everyone stared at her in shock. Did she just? The raccoon started. Say something smart for once. Naofumi finished for her. Rude. Naofumi. Rude. HMPH, so a stinky Philoleel can think something smart. What a surprise. Albaz commented. Boo. I bet Mr. Albaz can't think anything like Philo did. Philo pouted. I can think anything better than you. Mr. Albaz is a liar. I was not. Van laughed mirthfully, grabbing our attention. He pulled out several vials of some dark ink from the box. Oh Werner, you sly bird. So this was your plan all along. Naofumi looked at them curiously. Isn't that the ink used to make a slave crest? Why would he send something like that with us? The governor smiled brightly as he held up a vial, sloshing the dark liquid around. This is actually a special ink to remove slave crests. If you're going to be saving slaves from idle Rabier's possession, you'll need these. That's right, I guess I hadn't thought of that. I haven't had to use the slave crest in so long that I forgot just how much it's capable of. He sent an apologetic look to Raftalia. If we tried to break those people out without erasing the slave crests, he could easily have the crests kill them as soon as he finds out they're gone. This is good though, right? Now we have a way to get them out safely. Raftalia exclaimed happily. Van snapped his fingers. Let me have one of my attendants bring a map of his territory so you know where to go. If I remember correctly from my last visit, there are a few locations that would be easier for you to infiltrate than others. We ended up spending the night at Van's mansion. The accommodations were nothing compared to Siltvelt's castle, but they were more than adequate. I was too wary of an attack overnight, so I found it so difficult to sleep. I decided to spend the night by the window, looking out over the horizon and thinking over a next step. Even if we saved those slaves from that devil's possession, where will they go? I can't expect Reichnot to house them for too long, especially there's a chance that devil will come after them. But even worse. Rimuru, are you still awake? Naofumi's quiet voice came from behind me as I turned around to look back at him. Yeah, I can't seem to fall asleep. Too much on your mind? He asked, pulling up a chair beside me. I nodded with a sigh. Yeah, even if this goes perfectly, we still have a lot of things to deal with. And with the king preparing for war, will they attack us as soon as the wave ends? Or even soon as it begins? I held my face with my hands. I just can't figure out what the best plan is. He frowned, grabbing my hand in his own. I was thinking about it too. Whatever happened next, we can't take any unnecessary risks. Watch each other's back, and we'll get away just fine. As long as we're all together, we'll find a way. I giggled. That's our unspoken rules, isn't it? I guess so. He smiled before frown. Still, a war isn't exactly something we can handle on our own. Our best bet would be going back to Siltveld and breaking our way through the border, but then the war would happen for real. Fatoria said it herself. The fighting between humans and demi-humans doesn't really matter compared to the threat of the waves. A battle like that is sure to cause some serious damage on both sides. Then we'd all be doomed. I hope the other three is willing to hear us. God knows that's all we need for now. Ren and Itsuki will listen to us at least, assuming they are even shows up to this wave. Naofumi said. Motoyasu are still the rogue elements if that bitch is still around him. If any of them become our enemies when it comes to this war, Fatoria won't have any choice but to kill us all. A war between heroes is the one thing she didn't want to happen. Don't worry, Naofumi. At least Ren and Itsuki willing to listen to us, Nad. Hopefully we can convince them. He sighed and allowed his head to rest on top of my own a bit. I sure hope so. After some time, I managed to sleep because Naofumi rubbing my head for several minutes to dull my stress, and it works. The next day, I spent the day by teaching Philo and Alba's martial arts, also telling them to get along or at least endure their hatred. Ranga officially become their caretaker. Since we can't go out from Reichnot's territory because it's dangerous, Alba's can't leveling up. Naofumi spent the majority of the day by crafting medicines and poisons. He never knew when he'd need them, considering he had the Chimera Viper shield to take care of that for him, but sometimes one needed to be a bit more discreet. Having two giant snakes bite down on someone from his shield was the furthest thing from stealthy. One thing we'd been wondering all night was how to keep idle Rabier from noticing that his slaves were being removed. When Raftalia's crest had been removed, the notification blinking over her status. If he was awake, and possibly even if he was asleep, there was no doubt that the man would realize what was happening. So I decided that the only options were to kill the man, or to knock him out so he couldn't kill the slaves before they had their crests removed. But killing a high-profile noble like him was sure to have serious consequences later. And considering the fact that the king was already convinced we were there to start a war, murdering the governor of a large territory such as Rabier's would bring a lot of unnecessary and justified hatred. The worst situation is Melromark will immediately attack Silvert and vice versa. That left incapacitation is the best option. Conveniently, one of the recipes that Naofumi unlocked included a sleeping potion. There were other interesting options like a love potion, but there's no way he was going to give that to someone as rotten as this guy. The last thing we needed was for some crazy, murderous noble to have a thing for Naofumi. It was extremely convenient that Van's mansion had so many tools for crafting medicines, otherwise he would have to go to find some. Like I said, in a place where the wrong person spotting us could mean imprisonment or death, we wasn't too keen on wandering around in the middle of the day if we want to. As the sun went down, me, Naofumi, Raftalia and Philo found ourselves at the outside of Idol Rabier's mansion. Under the retreating sunlight, it was relatively easy to enter the town undetected. But once we got closer to the governor's mansion, however, the security was much tighter. They circled around the mansion until they reached their point of entry. Raftalia took one more look at the map. Naofumi-sama, Rimuru-sama, are you certain this is the right spot? She asked, looking up at the massive walls that made the mansion look more like a fort. If we jump over the wrong spot, we'll end up in plain sight from the central courtyard. That man is sure to have guards posted all over the place. I noted how she refused to speak the man's name, and I couldn't blame her. I'm pretty sure this is where we need to be. If we jump right here and land on the battlements, we should be able to sneak around to the other side without running into too many guards. From there, we can enter through the side door, near the ballroom. Can Philo kick any guards in our way? Philo asked. She was in her philolial form, which now sported a white gold cowlick on the crown of her head. No, we should avoid confronting any guards outside, just in case they make too much noise. We're better off interrogating a guard inside, where nobody would hear him if we drag him somewhere isolated. Raftalia's sweat dropped. You sound like some kind of assassin. Because we are doing an infiltration mission, Raftalia. I sighed. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill anyone if I can avoid it. Now Raftalia, let's go. The raccoon cast her all first hiding, shrouding us in an invisible veil before Naofumi and Raftalia hopped onto Philo's back as I activate my new skill, Body Shapeshift. dragon wings, to fly through the wall while Philo easily jumped through it. Nobody is here, Philo whispered. Good. Head to the right, but slowly. We don't want to let anyone know we're here yet. Philo did as she was told, carefully walking on the wall until they reached a tower with I following her. I deactivate my skill as Naofumi slowly cracked the door open. Inside was a single guard, snoozing in a chair with a lamp beside him. A bottle of liquor was empty on a nearby table. Naofumi opened the door the rest of the way, allowing us to tiptoe inside. Positioning himself behind the guard, Naofumi wrapped his arms around the man's neck harshly. What the F? Shish. Be silent and answer my questions, and I might let you live. Naofumi said with as much poison in his tone as he could muster. The man tried to shout for help, but the increasing pressure on his throat cut it short. I said, be silent and answer my questions. Naofumi choked a bit harder, and the man knocked the empty bottle off the table. Wheeze, who are you? Where are you? The man demanded. Naofumi shook his head and tightened his grip a bit more. LM the one asking questions, now. Talk. Naofumi do a Batman style interrogation. Fine. Just let me live, please. I have 3 kids. The man pleaded. I'll tell you anything you wanna know, just don't turn my little girls into orphans. Naofumi sighed internally, and relaxed his grip on the man's throat. We've heard the governor likes to keep slaves. Any idea where they are? Slaves. I'm not Sue. Don't lie to me, Naofumi said through grit teeth, doubling down his chokehold enough to make the man cough and sputter. They're underground. I'm just a night guard. I don't know for sure. Any ideas on where the entrance is? The man rubbed his sore neck. I think it's on the other end of the mansion, near the west tower opposite of this one. The entrance looks like a wine cellar, but you'll need a key to get in. He reached over and grabbed a nearby ring of keys with shaking hands, rifling through them before holding out a specific one. I'm pretty sure this is the one. I don't know for sure, but you can take the whole thing anyway. Just let me go home to my kids. I never wanted to hold a bunch of kids as slaves. Rabier pays well, but nothing is worth seeing the faces of my own girls when he talks about whipping them. Naofumi then giving him a vial. Thank you for your cooperation. As a gift, drink this. It's a sleeping potion, so it'll look like you got drugged and your keys were stolen. That way, even after all this is done, Rabier can't put any blame on you. Thank you. The man greedily gulped down the potion, and within moments he started wobbling in his chair. Before he fell to the ground, Naofumi snagged him and moved him to a corner of the room where he could sleep peacefully. Raftalia's spell wore off, and we reappeared. Good work, Naofumi. I praise him with a smile. You're so good in interrogating people. Not really. Naofumi rubbed his back of his head in embarrassment. But is that really necessary? He was cooperating, Raftalia said with unamused glare. He could still be lying, but at least we got the keys and a lead on where the slaves are being kept. Naofumi said. Beside, it just a bluff, nothing more. Raftalia sighed. At least it's Naofumi-sama who did the interrogation. If it's Rimuru-sama, I feared his head will popped out from his neck. I groaned. I'm not evil, I swear. I'm not a megalomaniac who kill people for the thrill of it. After sneaking past the now unconscious guard, we descended the steps until we were on the ground level. From there, we just needed to avoid any patrols and enter through the side door. After a few minutes of watching people walk by in pairs, Raftalia had a feel for us to make a move. Go, she ordered, and we scurried across the corner of the courtyard undetected. Now they were hidden behind some bushes around the side door. However, the door itself was locked. Naofumi took out the guard's keyring, being careful not to let the keys jingle against one another. He tried one after the other, cursing at each unsuccessful attempt until he finally heard the deadbolt move. Yes. Okay. Let's go inside. Can you use your magic again, Raftalia? Yes. As source of thy power, I command thee. Decipher the laws of nature and conceal us from sight. All first hiding, she chanted, before we vanished once more. Naofumi pushed open the door and stepped onto the rich marble floor tiles covered with a lush, red carpet down the center. Every footstep seemed to echo through the long hallways, and he stopped before rounding a corner. Me, Raftalia and Philo followed him, with Philo transformed back into her human form due to lack of space. The hallways were big, but there were paintings and sculptures all across the sides of the halls that could easily be knocked over if one wasn't careful. After moving a bit further, Naofumi halted and motioning us to darted around the corner. A few seconds passed before a pair of guards walked into view at a four-way hallway junction. You don't really think she's a devil, do you? One asked. It sounds to me like some people just suck at their jobs and got upset about it. The other shook his head. No way, man. I've heard the girl is evil. Rumor has it, one time she fired all of her chefs within the first hour of them working under her. They didn't even finish cooking before she kicked them out. Seriously. Talk about a hardass. And she's coming here. Why would Lord Rabier want someone like her in her kitchen? From what I've heard, her cooking is second to none. Better than anyone else you could find, even in a castle's kitchen. But nobody can seem to hang on to her because she's so aggressive. She's been called the chef from hell. The other guard shivered. Well, I hope he manages to keep Lord Rabier's appetite under control. If there's one thing that man can do, it's eat. A lot. Don't say that too loud, or you may vanish sometime tomorrow. That'd get me stuck with the new guy, he said it with a hint of disgust. They moved out of earshot, and Raftalia was about to continue moving silently until she saw her master and mistress thinking hard. Naofumi-sama, Rimuru-sama, what are you thinking? SGE asked, ears flicking at every sound. Shouldn't we be looking for the slaves? He shook his head. No, we can't look for them yet. If we get caught, or try to free the slaves without knocking Rabier out first, he could kill them with a single thought. We have to find a way to knock him out for good, so that he won't even notice the slaves are gone until it's too late. And I just got a brilliant plan. I said with a smirk. And what's that? We can't get close to him. Our whole town's worth of guards will be after us. Raftalia dayed with a concern. Who said anything about get close to him? Trust me, this is such a brilliant plan. I chuckled. I think I know, and it indeed a brilliant idea. Naofumi said with his own smirk. Within minutes, we standing in a woman's changing room. Naofumi was looking at the other side as he blushing madly at the mere thought that she was essentially peeking on me. Raftalia was using her illusion magic to change my hair color into black and my eye colors into blue. Philo was just watching in interest as I buttoned up the rest of the chef's uniform and rolled up the sleeves. The woman I procured the uniform from, presumably the chef from hell, was stuffed into a bathroom stall with nothing but her undergarments. Rimuru-sama, I still don't know exactly what you're planning. Raftalia said as I hiding my katana on my back that was hidden by the uniform. Isn't it obvious? I'm going to go cook. I said with a smirk. You always told me that Naofumi and I could be a cook for royalty, after all. I wasn't being serious. And this man is the furthest thing from royalty deserving of your cooking. Raftalia exclaimed in frustration. I merely laughed, patting her between the ears as her tail fluffed in agitation. Relax, Raftalia. You, Naofumi and Philo can hide in here, or come with me while you're invisible. Once the meal is done, I'll slip a little something extra in that food. That should keep him out cold long enough to snag the slaves and get out of here. She looked uncertain. I hope you know what you're doing. Don't worry, Raftalia. She knows what she's doing. Naofumi tried to reassure her. She just sighed and nodded. It'll take some work, but this meal will be the best one that fat bastard has ever eaten. And more than likely, his last one for a week or two. I walked confidently toward where the kitchen was. The map that Van had was surprisingly detailed for someone else's mansion, but I wasn't going to ask how he got such information. Naofumi, Raftalia and Philo stealthily followed behind me, ducking behind large sculptures or into other hallways to avoid being seen. After a few minutes, I stopped outside of a set of double doors. I took a deep breath. All right, it's show time. And with that, I roughly pushed open the doors to the kitchen. All right, everyone gather round. I shouted, shocking my teammates outside. They decided to go invisible and sneak in while the double doors were still swinging open from how forcefully I opened them. A group of 4 chefs gathered in the center of the kitchen, all with frightened expressions on their faces. Who's been here the longest? I yelled. A young man raised a shaking hand. Me chef. Good. How long do we have until Fatty eats his dinner? Fatty. I don't know if you can call him. He cut off as I give him a glare that promised more than just pain. Do I look like I care? I asked how long we have. The man quickly looked at a clock in terror. We have about an hour, chef. An hour? Huh, alright then. We don't have any time to waste. Gather me all the ingredients we've got. The chefs did as they were asked, scampering around and gathering every ingredient that I could possibly ask for. There were vegetables, meats, liqueurs, meat stocks, and everything else. I smirked, the recipe already decided. Alright, we're making chicken. You start mixing honey, garlic, sriracha, rice wine vinegar, soy sauce, and lime juice together in a bowl. Sriracha. What's spicy sauce? Doesn't matter what kind. Why, yes, chef. The young man immediately sprang into action to do as he was told. I turned to the older woman beside me. You start deboning and slicing the chicken. Be sure to get a mix of fatty and non-fatty meat for extra flavor. Chop chop. I clapped for emphasis, and she quickly followed his instructions. I turned to the last two. You two are going to focus on the dessert. We're making crepes. See crepes, chef? I merely stood over the two, and I know that they swore they saw flames behind me and a pair of horns on my head. It's not a surprise for me, because my friends on my world also saw that when I'm angry. Raiden and Hosen named this state as the Demon of Storm. But seriously, this world doesn't know a crepes. This world is suck. What kind of chef doesn't know what crepes are? I exploded in anger. You're a failure of a chef if you don't know how to make crepes. Sorry chef. Here, beat the eggs with flour, salt, and sugar to make batter. Drizzle in the milk as you beat it. Melt some butter in the pan and let the batter cook until it's golden brown. Come on. It's just a glorified pancake for God's sake. How hard can it possibly be? Now Fumi, Raftalia and Philo watched as I shouted commands at the other chefs, taste what they'd made and corrected the way they did a step. There was a time when I dumped a metric ton of spicy ingredients into the chicken sauce pot. How much fucking spice did you put in this sauce? Still not enough. Mori. The sauce, which was a dark brown color before, was now a distinct shade of red. Special, only for the bastard. I took a slab of chicken and threw it in the woman's face for cutting it wrong. You really surprise me, you know. I do chef. She looked at me with hopeful eyes. She thought she will got praised by me. Hey, she's dead wrong. Yeah, you do. You surprise me by how shit you are. Cut it again. She tried her best to keep the tears from soiling the chicken meat going forward. Lady, this is nothing compared to Gordon Ramsay or my father. I'm not just berating one of the chefs and do nothing, you know. I was busy mixing liqueurs like cognac and Cointreau together with citrus fruit peels and juice along with butter and sugar to make the sauce for the crepes. While the chicken was marinating, the two chefs assigned for that tray crowded around to watch me work. After a few minutes, I'm done for. I turned to them in frustration. Who said you could slack off? But we're just waiting on the chicken to marinade for half an hour, like you said. The young man stammered. I was just interested in what you're making for the sauce for the, what was it called? The crepe. My apologies, chef. I rolled my eyes before looking around, and indeed everyone else was just about finished with their parts of the meal, and all that was left was cooking the chicken and dousing it in the spicy, honey sauce. All that was left for the crepes was waiting another few minutes for the batter to darken and to dip in the sauce that I was currently making. Alright, gather around. Maybe I'll make real chefs out of you idiots yet. Now watch closely. I continued making the food, pointing out specific things the chefs needed to be careful of. Now Fumi and Raftalia stared in amazement. She's really going all out. I know those guards said this chef was rude, but Rimuru-sama might be taking the acting a little too far. She thought with a sweat drop. She's really a professional chef's dog there. Now Fumi thought. Both of them saw Philo was drooling, and it's not good. Master Philo's so hungry. And Mistress cooking smells so good. Philo moaned quietly. Can't Philo have just a little bite? No, you cannot. Both of them yelled. That sound of them grabbing people's attention for a moment. What was that sound? One of the chef asked. It'll be the sound of your ass getting kicked from this kitchen if you don't pay attention. I roared. Sorry, chef. Please continue. Both Naofumi and Raftalia glared at Philo. That was so close. Philo, stop winning or we could have been caught. Naofumi chided, jabbing Philo's cheeks. But master. Don't. But master. Me. Don't do that again. Fiend. After they finished the meal, I wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. All right, everyone. Good work. You managed to not fuck everything up, so I'd say that's a passing grade for today. The other chefs all slumped to the floor in exhaustion. They must have been so worried about my rage that they couldn't relax for the whole hour they'd been cooking. Hey, there, don't know that this isn't even my best quality. Now then, who wants the first bite to test? All 4 chefs expressed their desire to test the food first. I chuckled, then I pulled out 4 extra copies of the exact same dish that they'd been making. Both the chicken and the crepes. Good thing I made enough for all of you. Dig in. They wasted no time, devouring the sweet and spicy chicken as well as the crepes like starving animals. Within minutes, they were all reduced to babbling, gastronomically pleasured messes with weakened knees. Glad you like it, I said with a smile. Now, take it to the big man himself. After the chefs leaving the room, Naofumi, Raftalia and Philo approached me. All right, mission accomplished. Operation Hell's Kitchen is complete. Operation Hell's Kitchen. She sweat dropped again. I suppose that makes sense. I didn't know you were such a good actor, Rimuru-sama. Acting. What acting? Note. Never ask Rimuru-sama how to cook unless she promised to not yell at me. Raftalia thought while shivering. Naofumi noticed this as he giggled before patted her shoulder. Raftalia, the chef life on our worlds is rough. What you saw today is just a glimpse of what happened in the real kitchen. I think I don't want to know that. Raftalia paled. So. How exactly does cooking for him help us? I pulled out an empty vial and shook it around. Well, the food was spicy enough that he won't taste this sleeping potion. I just dumped most of it in there when nobody was looking, so not long after he finishes the chicken he'll start to fall asleep. She smiled. That was great thinking, Rimuru-sama. He won't even notice it. Oh, and I added a special ingredient to those crepes while I was at it. I chuckled darkly. What kind of special ingredient? She was almost too scared to ask, as she started to see the vision of me with a backdrop of hellfire and horns on my head. Relax, Raftalia. It's just a laxatives. Naofumi reassured her. Laxatives. Raftalia tilted her head in confusion. At least he won't notice the mess until he wakes up, right? She couldn't argue with that. Well, I put the laxatives on lethal portion. If he's unlucky, he will die because of diarrhea. Master. Mistress. I'm hungry. Philo whined. We'll eat when we're out of here, so let's hurry and find those slaves. After waiting about 20 minutes for the sleeping potion to kick in, we escaped from the mansion under Raftalia's all-first hiding. It took a surprisingly small amount of time for us to find the cellar that the night guard had mentioned, being in plain sight in the courtyard. As soon as the door opened, our noses were assaulted with the stench of death and decay. This place stinks. Philo whined. This is the place. Raftalia's hands were shaking as her spell wore off. This is. She immediately took off into the dungeons, with me, Naofumi and Philo following behind. The raccoon was searching for one specific prison cell, and once she found it she collapsed to her knees and cried. When I caught up to her, he realized why. The only thing left in that cell was a single, small skeleton that looked to belong to a young girl. The ear holes were on top of the skull rather than the sides, so it must have been a demi-human. Rifana. Raftalia grit her teeth, trying and failing to will the tears to stop falling. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Please, forgive me. She continued babbling to herself, as I immediately hugged her. I didn't say anything because no words would truly make the situation any easier. Sometimes, silence is the best option. I patted her back as she continued cried against me. After a short time, Raftalia stopped crying and gained her sense of confidence back. I'm sorry, Rimuru-sama. I shook my head. Don't be. I know this isn't easy for you, so take as long as you need. Naofumi and Philo currently search for any survivors. When I tried to comfort Raftalia, Naofumi and Philo wandering through the decrepit dungeons until he found something that wasn't dead. A young boy with white and black hair, and two large dog-like ears. He was suspended from the ceiling in chains by his wrists. Philo, over here. Naofumi shouted. She came running over. Kick this door down. I think this kid's still alive. Okay. Hia. The door slammed open from the force of her kick. Naofumi entered, and used his shield to destroy the chains attached to his handcuffs. He caught the child as he fell, and noticed just how light he was. My stats are high enough that most things and most people are pretty light. But this kid, he's barely anything but skin and bones at this point. Is this what Raftalia lived through? This kind of hell? He wondered, scowl growing on his features. Maybe I should have give Rimuru some real poison into that food, consequences be damned. Oh well, I hope he died because of diarrhea. It was too late to go back anyway. The boy moaned before looking up. His eyes were glazed over and dead to the world. Who? I'm the shield hero, and I'm getting you out of here. Naofumi reached into his cloak and pulled out one of the vials of slave crest remover. This might sting, but please bear with it. He didn't even have to pull the boy's shirt away, since he was so skinny that it hung off of him like a robe. As Naofumi poured the ink onto the boy's slave crest, it sizzled and popped as if burning away. The boy groaned in pain, and Naofumi worried that it would be more than he could handle in his fragile state. However, within a minute the slave crest was completely gone. The boy slumped forward, unconscious. Naofumi held his hand forward. As shield hero and protector of life, I command thee. Decipher the laws of nature and heal my target. Dreda heal. He chanted, and a bright green light enveloped the boy. All of his minor wounds knit themselves back together, and all of major damage is healed. Philo, could you carry him? Just be careful not to move him around too much. Naofumi asked softly. Sensing the melancholy tone in his voice, Philo nodded and quietly moved him onto her back. As they wandered further into the dungeons, they encountered a few other living slaves. Naofumi used the ink on them as well, removing their slave crests and freeing them from idle Robier's possession. Most were in the same condition as the boy from before, barely clinging to life. He decided to heal them too, though how much it actually helped was uncertain. They were suffering from much more than just physical pain. It made Naofumi sick to his stomach. He had felt vindicated when he and Rimuru purchased Raftalia because it finally gave him another ally who couldn't disobey him. But he never treated her poorly or beat her, even when she wet the bed or made his life difficult. All in all, he would consider himself a pretty humane slave master. A slave master who forced his slaves to fight alongside him was better than a slave master who whipped, tortured, and killed his slaves, after all. Naofumi was certain most slaves would take his offer over the alternative. As he had Philo carry all of the broken children, he noted that all of them were kids, which angered him more, and it was justified. He really hoped that the bastard died slowly and painfully. Naofumi and Philo then approached me and Raftalia, who carried a small bundle of cloth in her hands with a sad look on her face. I think we've found everyone that we're going to. Are you okay to head back, Raftalia? Naofumi asked her. I think so. Then use your all-first hiding, so we can escape from this hellish place. I suggested. But how? Philo carrying the kids and we can't match her speed. Raftalia said. But I can. Body shapeshift. Dragon wings. A pair of crimson-red wings appeared on my back. Both of you hold my hands and we set to go. Don't worry about the corpse, I'll keep it on my inventory. Okay. Raftalia nodded before casting the spell. All right. Rimuru, Raftalia, Philo, let's go leave this place behind. For good this time. Naofumi said with a thin smile. Yeah. Let's go. Raftalia nodded. Philo, I'm counting on you. Roger that, sis. With that, Philo rushed like a wind as I started to fly while carrying both Naofumi and Raftalia. There's another reason why I saw no differences of killing human or monster. Because human can be worse than monster itself, and this event is a perfect example of it. To be